don't admit that you did something wrong and apologize, you cannot be moving in power of God and in esoteric doctrine and not be willing to admit when you did something wrong and apologize. You will get hurt. All of this whole message today is to tell you God doesn't want you to get hurt. Please don't get hurt. We are His army. He needs us. Don't go getting sick. Don't get hurt. See? So that was then. And then there was a woman in this ministry that was pretty vulnerable. And I drove over, another person in the condominium. I drove over there one day, and here was this first woman. She went from saying she has to have this message to telling this vulnerable woman in our ministry that she doesn't need this message and she should go to another church with her and she doesn't need to make a commitment. And I drove up just at the time that she was telling her that, and she knew what she was doing wrong because she even said something about, well, stealing the sheep, and I just looked at her. She walked away. And then a week later she left her phone number in the mailbox of that vulnerable woman. In other words, you don't want to go to Sheila's. You don't have to. You can go anywhere you want. You don't need that message. So she was trying to seduce. She was a wolf trying to seduce someone in the ministry. I never said, what am I going to do about it? I never said, this is who she, listen, brethren, I like this woman. You need to hear what I'm saying. I like her, but she has some problems, see? And what she did was wrong both times, okay? Some more time went by. This had to be like 15 years ago. Well, and you know, what's interesting is that God used her positively too. Let me tell you that. When she first came here, when she first found me, however we met, I don't even remember how we met. We both lived here, you know. I don't even remember how we met. She was going to gospel revivals. And she told Joan that she met me. And according to her, according to the woman that was there, according to her, Jones, now, in case you all don't know, I was a faithful member of that church for 7 years. I wrote the pastor's books. I was at every service. I was a very faithful member of that church, and he didn't treat me very well. And I left. When I left, it was what was not good terms, okay, without getting into that whole thing. So she told Joan that she met me, and Joan said, oh, you've got a, whatever, she said something bad about me. So the woman who I just told you about that did these other wrong things, she wanted to find, she's got good qualities, she wanted to find out for herself. So she got to know me, she was in the ministry for a few months, and she told me, for whatever it's worth, that when because she was a church hopper. See, that's what she was trying to make the other person do. She was a church hopper. When she went back to gospel revivals and they said, well, did you find out what she is? According to her, she told them, Sheila is a woman of God, don't talk to me about Sheila. And I believe she told them that. So God used her. God uses her mightily. You need to hear what I'm saying, brethren. God uses her mightily in Pentecost. She's powerful in Pentecost. She's powerful in prayer, but she's not delivered. Some of our biggest enemies are in the church. She's a powerful woman of God, but she's not delivered. See? Now, she's had deliverance already. You can never say, I've had deliverance already. Or, what is your personality like? That's the test. Do you want to know one of her? She admits that her background, that she has heavy witchcraft in her background. One of her, she had the most incredible testimonies of deliverance that brought her to the place that she is now. I wonder what she was like before that. Okay. So God has given her so much deliverance. And so anyway, come to the future And now we're on these friendly terms because I've decided to let these other issues go. That's what they do in the world. I'm going to let it go. And I know that she's called. She's called to the, not MCCK, but the ministry that comes forth here. She's very anointed, but her pride and her witchcraft will not let her go on. I don't know what God's going to do for her, but if she doesn't overcome this pride and this witchcraft, she will be wasted. She will be wasted as far as the Christ-driven ministry goes. She ministers in Pentecost all the time. She helps a lot of people. You have to hear what I'm saying. She's not a bad person. She's not a bad person at all. But she's bound with pride and witchcraft very strongly. And that's what attacked me this week. Her witchcraft and her pride. It almost, I'm telling you, I was almost non-functioning this morning. I've experienced it before. It was the most severe of anything that I could compare it to. It was in line with the most severe spiritual attacks I've ever had to my memory since I'm living like this in God. So what happened? What happened? Right? She called me up a few months ago, almost choking on her words. The bottom line was, her testimony was that brethren, she works on Sundays. She works very long hours. And something stirred her up to go to church. She had one Sunday off. Something stirred her up to go to church. So she went over to Full Gospel over here on Old Town Road. And she wasn't fully satisfied, and the Lord said to her, you need the Word. So she called me up, because she knows this is where you get the Word. She knows the Word is valid here. She almost choked on it. It came out of her mouth garbled. And I decided to have grace on her. I said, what did you say? Did you say you wanted to come to a meeting? And she said yes. Now, a few years ago, she's telling the other woman that you don't need this Word, and you should go to other churches, and you shouldn't go to only one church. You should go around to all different churches. So at that point, I said to her, well, you need to make a commitment, and why don't you listen to a few messages first? So we sent her some DVDs and gave her some books, and she never, I've given her books over the years, and she reads the books. She never got around to listening to the messages. It just didn't work. So I now realize, well, she can't come in here now. She would never survive. She could not sit here. She has to be the one giving the advice and doing the talking. And she could never, I don't think that she could submit him. I don't think that she could keep her mouth quiet and be a student. She wants to be the teacher. And to tell you the truth, that she's told me this, that she wants a ministry. A few years ago, she told me. She works in a place where I go, so I see her from time to time. She told me herself that she wants a full-time ministry, and she ministers to people at work. She wants a ministry. This time she told me when she came in, what was she doing here on Monday? She came to see me to give me something. So I called her in and had a nice conversation. Well, I don't know what kind of nice conversation. She was doing most of the talking. Brother, I'm not going to compete with you to talk. So when other people talk, I just listen. So she did most of the talking and told me all about her life and everything, giving me advice to go here, to go there, to do this, to do this. She wants to be the one. She wants to be the one. Brethren, it's immaturity. We all go through this. You need to hear what I'm saying. She's a very nice person. Just wants to help. She wants to help. She wants to do good. But we have to be instructed on how to do good. Because sometimes the way we think we're going to do good is actually the sin of pride and witchcraft. So what is this message all about today? It's all about us. It's a practical, personal message. You want to wield the power of God, you've got to lay down your own desires. You have to lay down everything. And then you wait. Well, I laid down everything. I laid down my Pentecostal ministry. I laid it down, and nothing's happening. It has to die. After you lay it down, it has to die, you see. It has to die. So she's still speaking it out. She thinks she's doing good. So that was Monday she was here. And then I mentioned to her that I really think the issue was this coat. I mentioned to her that I was going shopping for a coat, I needed a coat. And she told me about this coat that she had, and she brought the coat over in the afternoon. She came back and she brought the coat over. And it didn't fit me. The coat didn't fit me, and it's really not what I would buy if I was buying it myself. I decided not to keep it. And also she walked in while we were having the discussion on the colors of the video, and she gave us some advice. Now at that point I thought maybe her advice would be valid, so I was interested in listening to her. And then she left. That was Monday. And then she said something. I don't want to describe who she is, but she offered me something. If I would call her on Tuesday, she'd be able to give it to me. And I woke up Tuesday morning and I decided I didn't want the coat. And I didn't think I really needed what she also offered me. And I went out shopping for a coat on Tuesday morning. By the time I spent an hour, 2 hours walking around, and I went to Marshall's. By the time I got in the car to go home, I thought I was going to pass out. I was so weak and tired, I didn't know what hit me. I came home, I had to go to bed. It was Tuesday. I'm pretty sure it was Tuesday. Then Wednesday was the same thing. Just my whole body was so weak. I said, well, I walked 3 miles the other night, and I'm just getting back into my exercise regimen again. I walked Tuesday, I walked 2 miles. Wednesday, I walked 3 miles. I better take it easy. Thursday, after the meeting, I had to lay down. I was just laying there, like a lox, right? And it wasn't until Friday that I started realizing that something was really wrong. And as I prayed about it, I said, I bet you it's her. I bet you it's that coat. She really wants me to take that coat. So that was Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and I didn't also take the other things that she offered me also. She texted me Tuesday and said, do you want what I offered you? And I said, well, thank you very much, but I don't think that we'll be needing it. You need to understand, brethren, she loves Jesus. She's a very nice person. She just wants to help you. But there's sin operating in her. And I think that she got upset that I didn't want what she offered. So Saturday, was it Saturday or Friday? It had to be Friday because Susan was still in the office. Friday, I went to where she works. She works in a retail shop. And I saw her and I told her, thank you, but I really don't want the coat. It's really not for me. And she sounded fine with it, but I could see that she was upset. And then just to make conversation, she said, well, what's new? I said, well, I'm going to Tennessee. I'm going to Tennessee on next week. And it's really, I'm trying to tell her that it's a wonderful thing that this woman, this pastor is talking to me now, and we'll see what God has for us. And she says to me, oh, because I said they've been shunning me for all of these years. And she said, well, did she admit what she did and apologize? Now remember what I told you about her. She left here 3 nights in a row screaming and yelling at me on the phone that I had to give her these tapes because God wants her to have the message. And then what she did with the other person, tried to get her out of this ministry. And she's now giving me advice on the pastor from this church in Connecticut, saying, well, did she admit what she did wrong? And did she apologize to you? And if she didn't, you can't trust her. And she was, well, if she didn't, you can't trust her, and you should, I don't even know if she was saying I shouldn't have lunch with her. It was real negative, okay? And suddenly, you never lay hands on anybody suddenly. You're not supposed to be praying for people that don't want you to pray for them. She slapped hands on me and is praying that I shouldn't be heard from this woman. And now I'm getting to the issue that I want to put before you, okay? Because this is the second time this has happened to me in the last couple of months, that someone was praying for me in an ungodly manner, and I didn't stop them. And both times I got hit really hard. So let me finish the story, though. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, she can't hurt me. I'm not receiving it in my mind. And and I didn't think she could hurt me, so I let her pray her prayer, and she lifted her hand up, and she said, oh, well, I know you didn't ask for prayer, but I prayed for you. And as I walked away and said goodbye, she's like yelling after me, you don't trust that woman, blah, blah, blah. But, the whole time she's telling me, did she apologize to you? Did she admit it? I'm looking at her, and I'm saying, this woman never said anything. She never admitted what she did, that it was wrong. She never apologized, okay, for the way she talked to me. Not only the way she talked to me, of trying to force me to give her tapes because God said she needs the message. She never apologized for trying to get some vulnerable person out of the ministry. And I'm looking at her, and she's telling me all this, and I'm saying, what? Sometimes I think I'm in an insane asylum. Everything is so irrational around me. I'm saying, well, do you want me to say something to her? Do you want me to say something to her? And I said, I'm not going to, we're in a public place. I said, I'm not going to say anything to her unless you open up my mouth. And the Lord didn't say anything, and then she slapped hands on me and started praying for me. And after that, I just said goodbye, I said, this is unbelievable. And I went home, and by the time I got into the car from that retail store, I was exhausted. I came home, I had to go to bed. That was Friday. Yesterday, I spoke to someone on the phone from the ministry, and at that point now I'm realizing that I think it's her. I think that it's her that is killing me like this. But yesterday was better. So I said, well, Friday, I guess it was yesterday, it was Saturday, I'm sorry. Saturday, I was better. So I thought it was because I spoke to another believer, and I seemed to realize that it was her, and that it could be curses coming in concerning Tennessee, and I felt better. I still had a rest when I got home Saturday, and I was just laying there like a lox in bed. I had to get up and pack. I had to lay there for 5 minutes saying, I break these curses, I break these curses, I break these curses, etc. And then finally I got out of bed and I started to pack. But then I was okay for the rest of the day. But I woke up this morning, I'm telling you, my whole body was just killing me. I said, maybe I'll feel better if I take a shower. It didn't really help. And that was the story I started with. Okay. So this is the question that I had before the Lord. Was I wrong? Well, in the other church, that woman who was all upset because I talked about Kabbalah, and she wanted to pray for me, so I let her pray for me. And then I couldn't move my arm. I had digestive problems. I was really sick, and now I didn't stop her from praying for me, and all of my energy was drained from me this morning. And it was so severe that in the past I would have gotten sick from something like this, but this time I'm not going to be sick. I'm not going to get another respiratory infection from it or anything else. I said, what should I have done? Would it really have made any difference if I pulled my hand away and said, you can't pray for me? Would it really have made any difference? In that other church I said, no, I know that I knew when she started to pray for me, I knew what it was. Should I have refused to? Would it have made any difference if I refused to let them pray for me? Would it really have made any difference? Because whatever was raging in them was raging towards me. So I guess I'd like some audience participation here. I just gave you a very long testimony. What do you think was manifesting in this woman? I'm telling you, on this, she really just wanted to help, okay? And she wanted to give me a coat, and she wanted to help, and she wanted to, why am I under this heavy attack? What? So we know it's pride and witchcraft. What's going through her soul that a person who really just wants to serve God and really just wants to help, what's going through her soul that would cause this kind of witchcraft attack on me? And I'd like everybody to say something. This is a practical exercise. Who's on the line yet? Who's on the computer today?
Rose, Margaret, Deli, and someone who says take it to the streets ministry. Oh, that's Tony.
Okay. So, what do you all think is operating there that she just knocked me on my tail? What's happening in her mind? and in her soul.
I think on some level she's trying to take authority over you, and I think by attempting to give you the coat, and she's trying to worm her way into your life at some point to maintain a connection so she can get back in the ministry. And
That's possible. You know, when you started to talk, the Lord just reminded me of a very important point that I didn't tell you that I'd forgotten about. Why was it so bad this morning? Because last night, as I was leaving the house with Brooke to meet Susan and June at the theater, I said, I was realizing that it was her. And I was saying, I want to get this coat out of the house. And I was hoping to drop it off on our way to the theater. So I texted her and asked if I could drop it off. And then she didn't answer me, so we just went. And I saw this morning that she had answered me. She was not home. She was in New Jersey. So she got the text that I wanted to drop the coat off last night, and she really dumped on me. Although I had told her in the store that I didn't want it, when I sent the text, I'd like to drop it off now, apparently all hell broke loose on me. That was what made it so bad this morning, that I texted her and said, I want to give it back. So somebody else say something, please. You're sons of God, you're in deliverance. You need to say something. Ask the Lord to give you something to say if you don't know what to say. Okay, who's there?
Hi, Sheila.
Yeah, hi. Who is that?
This is Brett.
Oh, hi, Brett.
I just really feel in the spirit that she's really suffering from neglect, not neglect, but rejection. I don't know if she grew up with it or if it came from her dad or what, but it's rejection that has got a hold of her.
Well, I can agree with that. She's a very hurt woman. I mean, I do know her life story. She's a very hurt woman, and she's divorced. She raised 2 children. Yeah. So that could be the case. But is that what caused the attack on me, Brett? What caused how did this attack come on me like this?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think she has a lot of mind control, and I think that was, persisting that you have that coat.
Yeah, she wanted me to take that coat. Yeah. Yeah, well, that was interesting what Brooke said. I hadn't really thought that she was trying to. Well, I'm not going to talk. I want you all to talk before I talk. Somebody say something.
Tony said he had the same thoughts that Brooke had, that she's trying to get into your good graces, and that's my thought too. And Rose said, I'm not certain of the relationship you have with this woman, though, but she thinks it's jealousy.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of jealousy there too. Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking control. She wants to be in control of the relationship, and maybe fear of submitting to you and all that entails. That
She'd never do it.
Right. So she's making a point to be in control, but say that it's in her mind. She's saying that she's a godly woman, and this is what God wants me to do. But I think it's a control thing.
Yeah. Who said jealousy? Who was the one that said
That was
jealousy?
Rose.
Rose, yeah. That was very good, Rose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who else who didn't speak? You really should all, I can't force you, I won't try to force you, but you really should all participate. This is a learning exercise. Everyone should participate.
Sheila, this is Jesse.
Yeah, hi Jesse.
Hi. I think there's multiple things here. One of course is the contact with the jacket. I think there's also Bible schizophrenia, lust to minister. That's in there, and I personally just kind of look at all those things that everybody has said as being a part of it. It's being who she is. She's schizophrenic. She's got schizophrenia, and and very highly spiritual, and is just a very strong spiritual witch. But yet, I don't doubt, from your testimony and things that I've heard that, she loves Jesus. But there's definitely a real negative part of her as well, that has not been
Dealt with.
delivered in Christ from her.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I'm at
Yes,
with it.
I agree, Jesse. I just want to clarify what Jesse said. He's talking about Bible schizophrenia. He doesn't mean psychological schizophrenia. Bible schizophrenia, and this is interesting too because Brett said that she has rejection. The foundation of Bible schizophrenia is rejection and rebellion. They work together, and the schizophrenia is that, actually it's a misnomer because schizophrenia is different than multiple personalities. The Christian man who wrote the book, I believe he meant multiple personalities. And those multiple personalities are our old man and our new man in Christ. And this conflict, okay, causes all of the sins of the old man to flush to the surface. So she's trying to be this godly woman, and on the surface she's being this godly woman, but underneath there's all kinds of poison and serpents and snakes and scorpions, okay, that are operating, and she's not getting deliverance. She's just smoothing it over by being nice on the surface. But me being a spiritual person, all of the snakes and scorpions, well, she put me in a pit with all the snakes and scorpions, and I'm telling you, this morning it was really severe. So I just wanted to clarify that for you, Jesse. I didn't want people to think you were saying that she's psychologically or schizophrenic. She's not mentally ill by psychiatric standards. She's coming out of two fountains. That's what James said. How could bitter and sweet water come out of the same fountain? These things should not be, but that's what's happening. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Jesse.
Sheila?
Oh, yes. Hi, Rita. Yes.
Hi. Yeah, three things came to my mind. The first thing was pride, and the second thing was jealousy. And then when you told her you didn't want the coat, then I thought rejection is probably those three things are what came to my mind.
Yeah. Well, brethren, it's really hard when we offer people things. It's very kind of us, but you have to be prepared that they won't want what you offer them. You can't expect people to wear something that they don't like because you offered it to them, So I'm sorry if I hurt her feelings, but I didn't like the coat. Maybe that was the rejection that Brett was talking about, rejection for the coat. I thought he was coming from a deeper place than that, but I realize now you probably meant rejection from the coat. But I think it was more than that also, and two people have already said jealousy. So who hasn't spoken yet?
Margaret. She says she's very controlling over you. She really wants her to take everything she offers. That would make her feel relevant, and that she says they also agree, Rose, that there's jealousy and some possessiveness, and she has a problem with pastor meeting with the Connecticut pastor.
Okay, is there anyone else who wants to speak?
Yep, this is Sandra.
Hey, Sandra.
I just looking at a big picture when I'm praying over this and just trying to see what's happening, because there's a lot of people that have came against you in this way, but it hasn't had this effect on you, and I just think that there's something more powerful working behind it. It seems like, maybe it's a warning with this Pentecostal church that they're being used by the other side to get a hold of the doctrine of Christ, that they, for whatever reason, because of all those entities that are being used on the other side, the snakes and the creeping, crawling things that they all think they've been fully delivered of and haven't been. They're walking in this delusion, and that makes them an open door for Satan to work through them to get to the power that's in this ministry. And she was trying to gain hold of that power. She was trying to come like I think it's been put a few times, that she's trying to take authority. If she can get to the place where she can take authority and come over top of you and bring you down, think about what, I mean, obviously, I'm not telling you to think about it, but I'm just thinking about what implication that has for the power that's being wielded in this ministry right now. It just seems...
Sandra, I think I'm just starting to realize what you're saying. Are you saying that by coming against the luncheon that she was... Oh, say it again. What is your point? Can you make it simple? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I am sort of drawing the two together because the correlation that I'm seeing is the luncheon, and of course it's her. But I'm just seeing, generally speaking, maybe this is a warning too. Obviously, you're going to have your guard up with Pastor Clinton, obviously, but that this Pentecostal spirit is really trying to come in and take this out. Take this, what we have in this ministry out, like they have been forever, but it seems like it's being heightened. And what she just tried to do is take authority over you, and because if she can get up there, if she can get over the top of you with that authority, it will bring you down, and you will not be lifted to the place that you need to be when you face Kalinsky.
That's interesting because, I also had I have to confess this. I guess it was just about a week before she came. She came on Monday, so it was the week before. She had really been on my mind. Now I'm thinking that there's ministry for her. I know her condition, but I'm not looking at the witchcraft and the pride. I'm looking at the person that really loves God and that God really wants to help. And I'm trying to feel my way around to see what my role is in this. So I texted her the week before and said, you've really been on my heart. Are you okay? Because the last time I spoke to her, her father was having mini strokes and dying. And I had invited her to my birthday party, and she couldn't come. She was going to come, and then she canceled because her father had a mini stroke, and she had to go out to New Jersey. So she was really on my mind last week, and I texted her and said, how are you? Is your father okay? Because you've really been on my heart. And that was when she just said, well, I'm gonna come over on Monday because I have something that she's been wanting to give me for a couple of months now. So was I seduced? Because I brought this whole thing on myself before I'm going to Tennessee by texting her. Now see, here's the question, was this the Lord bringing this to a head, or was I seduced to texting her at that point? And I don't know, I think I said, Lord, I'm going to text her. Maybe I didn't ask him, I don't know, so I'm putting that out too. I need to know what happened there. But that's very interesting that Jezebel spirit in her tried to I don't know, I hear what Sandra's saying, I can't get it clear in my mind. That Jezebel spirit in her really tried to move into that circumstance to either interfere with what God is planning to do with that luncheon, or somehow to enter into a position of power in that situation. That maybe it's not that I don't understand what Sandra's saying, it's that I think that there's something valid in what Sandra is saying, but it's not really clear in my mind how she would have entered into that power, other than to take authority over me. If she could have convinced me that, I didn't pay any credence to it because I don't think she has any power over them. Besides, she was praying all the wrong things anyway. So I want to break all those curses right now that she put on my meeting with that pastor in Tennessee. I break all of those curses, and I put them right back on the head of the center, that she should learn not to blaspheme or not to pray in situations where it was a very high spirit coming in over what, not only taking authority over me, but moving in on what God is doing there. There am I saying, well, we'll see what God is going to do there. And she came right in and tried to really actually stop me, saying don't trust her, really I didn't pursue it
Yeah.
because I didn't care what she was saying, but she probably would have told me not to have lunch with her, you know, unless she apologizes or whatever. So that was a really wicked spirit that was higher than Jezebel taking authority over me. She made herself God. Here I am saying, we'll see what God has. And she made herself God and said, don't trust her. That was pretty high. But I know her witchcraft is very high, you know. Probably Sophia. I probably met Sophia.
I felt,
Yes.
I felt the manipulation was very high in that.
Yes.
Oh,
But she really didn't
strong
want me to have that
manipulation.
lunch with her. Yeah, she didn't want me to do it. So she tried to interfere with what God is doing over there. Wow, very wicked. Of course, she'd never believe it, you know. So, does anyone else want to speak? I know everyone has not spoken. This will be my last call. Does anyone else?
Lape just came
Yeah,
on.
Sheila.
Okay, can you just hold on a second, Rita, please? We're going to hear what Lape had to say. Just hang on, okay?
Lape just came on. She says, I'm sorry I missed the story. And Tony said, you rejected the coat. That's the root of the problem. I had this thought, how she could have prayed conscious or unconsciously over the coat to influence you to give her the books.
The books. Well, I gave her a free book. I don't think it's. I mean, she can get the materials from me. I don't think it's that. But I think that she wants to get back in the ministry. I think that she wants to. What she wants is to come when she feels like it. And I told her you have to make a commitment. And that's what she's rebelling against. And that's where the witchcraft is. How dare I tell her you can't come in and out whenever you want to. Yeah. Yes, Rita. What were you going to say?
Did you say that she wanted to pray for you and then she laid hands on you and prayed for you?
I'm not sure what you just said. She laid hands on me suddenly and prayed over the Tennessee luncheon issue.
Yeah, so that's what you're saying, that she laid hands on you and prayed for you.
Yes, after warning me, getting all excited and wanting me not to trust the woman. Yeah. Tony, the tapes that she was demanding, that was back over maybe 15 years ago. That happened a long time ago. So what she seems to want now is to come into the meeting. She wants control. She wants to walk in and out when she feels like it. And she's probably manifesting that I told her that she can't just come in, that she needs to make a commitment. And also, I think that there is a lot of jealousy there. She told me, I see her from time to time where she works in a retail store, and she has ministry that people walk by, and she should not be able to do that. I think it was Brooke that said to me, listen, she does that on her job. Yeah, she just, she doesn't approach people that would not want to hear her ministry. People just come and tell her their problems, I guess, and she's giving all of this advice and telling them about Jesus. And, I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? What was I saying? What was my point?
What about she was like preaching God?
Yes, so she told me, I was there, it was a year or two ago, she said she's ready for full-time ministry, that she wants full-time ministry and she's expecting God to give her full-time ministry. That was like a couple of years ago. Now, when she visited me on Monday, she said that she's really not feeling well, and she said she didn't look well. She had pain here, she had pain there, and that she wanted to go on disability, and but that she has a problem, that you can't go on disability, you can't apply for disability when you're working. So she would have to quit her job, and she wouldn't know how she would pay her bills then if she quit her job. And then she said something about which sort of contradicted herself. She said the doctor has all of the paperwork and he won't send it in. Like, she was mad at the doctor, and I said, well, why won't he send it in? And she said, well, I can't remember her exact words, but what I got out of what she said was that he won't send it in because a doctor is responsible. You know, you just can't put anyone on disability that you want to. That he's responsible to sign the papers only if he really believes the person is not capable of working. So he's not sending the papers in because he doesn't think she's qualified for disability. That's what I got out of it. So she was mad at the doctor who wouldn't sign the papers. So she wants to not have to work these long hours. She wants to be in full-time ministry. She came in here. It was her choice to come in on a Monday when Susan was here, Mary was here, June was here. I don't think Brooke came home for lunch that day, but she saw everybody working together. It was obvious that this was a ministry, and took her into my office. You know, a lot of people are jealous of me. I'm a very blessed person. I'm a hard worker, but I don't have any human boss over me, and that's a great blessing, you know. So a lot of people are jealous. They don't, you know, jealousy is not rational, you know. I've seen people that have, I mean, you know, I don't. Yes, well, I'm highly blessed, you know. How am I going to say this? It's not an easy job. What I'm going to tell you is it's not an easy job, and I sacrifice for this job. I don't have any pension plan. I don't have any 401k. I mean, I live in the ministry. What I have, I'm greatly blessed, but I pay a price for it. Plus, I work 7 days a week. You know, so people they see what I have, but they would never pay the price that I pay. See? So you want to go on disability so you can be in full-time ministry? Are you going to work like I work? Are you going to be up preparing your notes at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? You know, no, they would never do it. You see. So what I'm trying to say is that people who are jealous of me, they're what they think I have. They have an illusion. What they see is the surface, which is wonderful. You know, that I don't have a human boss over me. That we've got this fellowship here, which is a great blessing, brethren. Just that we have this group. There are people that are in the ministry that don't have a group in the state or the country where they're in, and they're alone. You know, so we've got the ministry, we've got the group in New York, we've got the Word, we've got God. You know, people look at it and they get jealous, but they're not willing to do what they would have to do to have the same thing. See? Yeah.
It's a funny thing how this is all working out, because I knew her.
Sheila?
You could hang on, please. Mina, did I forget about you? I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, what were you going to
Oh,
say?
you didn't forget about me.
Okay.
You just went on and talked after I mentioned it, but I just had something else to say about
so
it.
let's hear what June is saying, and we'll come back to you. Yeah.
Yes, I met her here at the ministry when she was first going to come.
Yeah.
And,
You mean years ago?
Yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
And there was an incident, but I just realized it now, that she gave me a coat.
Did she really?
She gave me a coat, and I was glad to get it, you know. But she was also doing my hair, and I of course did something wrong, because I didn't really want to have her head to do my hair. I think I went twice and she did my hair, and I don't know whether it was just too much or money or what it was, but I
remember that you didn't want her to do your hair.
yeah,
after that.
and so I just let it drop, and I didn't really say anything to her about not doing my hair or anything. I just kind of eased out of her life, you know, and I think she was really angry, you know. So I just wanted to bring that up to you, because I felt it's almost the same issue, you know, as she wanted. Of course, she wanted to do my hair, but I didn't communicate with her, which was wrong on my part, and I realized that. In fact, I was kind of embarrassed when she was.
Well, what happened was she told me that she had a word of knowledge that you were a lawyer. Do you
Okay.
remember that?
Yeah.
She came
Okay,
to
now
me.
I remember. Yeah.
She came to me and she said, she didn't really know the brethren that well, so she said, that woman needing June, the Lord told me she's a lawyer. And I had to tell her, I said, well, that's a true word of knowledge, but June is not a lawyer in the sense of the word that you're thinking. What that means is that June has a lying spirit, and she didn't tell you the truth about why she's not letting you do her hair. So that was the issue. So, brother, you know, she's very highly spiritual. You don't know. That could be the Lord that told her that, or it could be a spirit of divination. You just don't know. When See, this is the problem with the Pentecostal gifts, okay? It can be a spirit of divination. It does not have to be the Holy Ghost telling you these things. You can't tell the difference. You can't tell the difference by the actual spirit that gives you the word. You tell the difference. You tell the difference by the circumstances that surround the word that comes forth. Now, with that word going back all those years ago, I distinctly remember it. It may be true that she recognized that spirit, that June wasn't telling the truth. Maybe it wasn't a spirit of divination, I don't know. But sometimes when you get a word of knowledge, if evil arises out of it, you know that it wasn't God. But sometimes you just can't tell the difference. You know? I don't know what spirit told her that. I know that it was the truth. That June was being dishonest. That's what June's confessing, that she was being dishonest about why she didn't want the women to do her hair anymore. Yeah. What did you want to say, Rita? Rita?
Well, considering the fact that she manifested the way she did in the past and there was no apology or anything like that and demanding you give her tips and all of those things from the past, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm really surprised, I guess, that she wanted to pray for you and lay hands on you. And I'm really thinking that that's where the bulk of the curses came in, when she laid hands on you and supposedly prayed for you this prayer. And it reminds me of a situation where I went into a support group not too long ago, and the woman next to me, and I'm not saying this that we should be paranoid about people touching us. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying the way that this woman did it with me was inappropriate. And 2 days later I was sick, and I'm wondering if that contributed. Because she had no reason to take hold and clasp my arm like she did. She started talking, and it had nothing to do with me. You know, you go into these support groups and they talk about themselves, basically, and what they're going through. But she started talking, and she's probably she didn't realize it, but I recognized that it was inappropriate. And there was probably some curses with it. So I'm just saying, that is just really surprising that this woman, after all this time, would come in and ask to pray for you and lay hands on you like that. And I think it was very inappropriate, and there were curses with it.
Well, didn't
and she seduced you into receiving the prayer.
Well, it didn't exactly happen like that, Rita. Okay, there has been a reconciliation between us because I decided to let the issue go and not demand an apology when she started befriending me. So there has been a reconciliation between us for years now, to the point that I invited her to my birthday party. Okay, and I didn't. And second of all, I did not receive her prayer. I just didn't stop her, but it didn't mean anything to me at all. I did not receive it. So the question that I have before the Lord is, is the fact that she touched my hand, that's where she laid hands on me, she touched my hand. Well, I guess if I pulled my hand away, she would have stopped the whole prayer, you know. Would it really have made that much difference, you know? And that's what but I think at this point, if anyone tries to do it again, I'm going to pull my hand away. Say, please, I don't receive other people's prayers. That sounds so offensive, but unless the Lord speaks to me about this, I think that's what I'm going to do in the future. Of course, the one from a couple of months ago, I got really sick, you know. I don't expect to get really sick from this. I just had a bad day today.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Sheila, is that there are going to be times when we're going to have to say no, when they want to touch us and lay hands on us and pray for us, the people that want to do that, and it would seem so offensive to do that. But there are times when we'd have to say no.
So that's the issue that's Rita's opinion, and that's the issue that I have before the Lord, okay? Is that what he really wants us to do? Because, brethren, I'm in a place, you know, where the scripture tells us to offend no one, see? Offend no one. And that's where I'm coming from with two people. When I say, you want to pray for me, pray for me. I'm not receiving your prayer, and I'm not afraid of you. You know, if you want to pray for me, pray for me. So I'm waiting to hear from the Lord whether or not that was a mistake, because we're supposed to be harmless as doves, see? and wise as serpents. Now, I just looked at her. She just grabbed my hand, and I just looked at her, and I hardly even listened to what she was saying. I could just tell you that it was about this luncheon, but it didn't, I mean, she did not influence me with it, which is what I think Rita just said. She didn't influence me with it at all. So I'm thinking if she didn't influence me with her prayer at all, and I recognized it for what it was a completely inappropriate prayer, and that she was taking authority over me, although I didn't realize until this morning that she really raised herself up higher than God. I recognized it for what it was, and I just walked away. So I'm waiting to hear from God about that. I just heard Rita's opinion, and if the Lord does speak to me about it, and He lets me, I'll share it with you, if not publicly, privately, however He moves on me. That's my question before the Lord, Would this not have happened to me if I pulled my hand away and said, please don't pray for me? Okay? With the other woman in that other ministry, I mean, I was in another man's ministry, and the woman there wanted to pray for me. Should I have made a scene and said, no, please don't pray for me? Which might not have been a scene, but it would have brought in an opposing spirit. I'm supposed to be as harmless as a dove. What does the Lord require of me? That's my question, and the answer doesn't seem to be coming forth in this meeting. So if and when I get the answer, I'll let you know. My feeling right now is the next time this happens, I would pull my hand away and see it, just to see if it makes any difference. I think if I had it to do over again, I would have stopped it. But we'll see if God speaks to me. So you want to be spiritual, do you? That's going to be the name of this message. So you want to be spiritual, do you? This is the spiritual life in Christ Jesus. And the main message here is that this is coming from a woman that really wants to serve God. But she's all in her carnal mind. And she's very tired and not feeling well. And her solution to the problem is to go on disability and work in a ministry. You've got to ask God what I've been telling you this all for years. You tell God what the problem is, and you wait for His solution. You don't tell God what the solution to your problem is and then ask Him to bring it to pass. It's called witchcraft. So I'm wondering what's going to happen to her. You see? She's in deep sin with this witchcraft and this pride. She's desperate. She really was ill. She didn't look well at all. See? And she's trying to solve her own problem. And she was jealous of what we have here, that she's still working. And she's probably saying to herself, why can't I have that? Because God didn't give it to you. You see, the question is not, why can't I have that? The question is, what do I need to be able to do that I'm not doing, that you have it and I don't have it? Or maybe, I don't even know if that's the right question. What do you want from me? You have to understand, well, I didn't want to get into that now. We publish books here, brethren. God doesn't pay you. God doesn't pay you to preach. Do you know that you don't get paid to preach? You don't get paid to preach. If that's the full extent of your ministry, you don't get paid to preach. If it's a bigger church and all that they have there is mild preaching, well then the pastor is an administrator. He's running an entity where people are coming and there's activities and he's running a business, okay? He's making a place for the brethren to come, and he's an administrator running that business. Here we're a small group, okay, and we're spread out all over the place, okay, but we're a publishing house. You don't get paid to preach, brethren. You don't. And you don't get paid to counsel the brethren either. You get paid for being an administrator. You get paid for running the corporate entity. That's what you get paid for. And what you're doing, if only what you're doing, I don't want to say if all that you're doing, but if what you're doing is preaching, if that's the extent of your ministry, you don't get paid for that. See? So, if she was asking me, I would tell her, are you capable of administering a ministry? Are you capable of handling people without crushing them? And the answer is no, she'd be crushing everybody. Are you capable of preaching? I've heard you give advice, I've heard you counsel, can you preach? I don't know, she can preach, you know. So people, brethren, the church is without understanding. And when someone with understanding comes along and wants to give them understanding, they're not listening. So I started this whole message by telling you I've been reading in Jeremiah, and it's frightening. Jeremiah, the first few chapters, is frightening to me. All of the people doing whatever they want and thinking that they're in right standing with God. And Jeremiah is telling them about the destruction that's going to fall, and they don't believe him, and the king puts him in jail for telling them the truth. Almost kills him. So I'm hoping that everybody here is going to get before God and ask him sincerely. Brother, it can't just be a religious work. You have to sincerely want to know the truth if you're doing everything that God wants you to do. Or if there's anything you're doing that he doesn't want you to do. And you can't cherry pick. You can't say, well, this came from God and that didn't come from God. What if he tells you to do something that you'd rather not do? You can't convince yourself that it's not God. If you do convince yourself that it's not God, again, God's not there throwing down lightning bolts at you, but there is a sowing and reaping judgment that is laid out for your life. And the negative events of your life, they could come early or they could come late. You come into life with a writing, okay? You're going to die at such and such an age, okay? And maybe you'll have this disease or you'll have that disease, you know. And it's not written in stone when it has to come to pass, when you're 10 years old, when you're 50 years old, or when you're 100 years old.